Yeah.
So how are you all doing? It's almost the half of the class. I can't believe it, right? So you have quite a few things due, maybe just on one day or in a week, because you are taking quite a few classes at the same time. Yeah. Well, it's good and bad, right? It's good that we are already close to halfway across, but the bad thing is we still quite a bit to do. But the good thing, I would say, would be more than the negative sides, because now we have a better idea about how to approach most of the assignments. Yeah. So today our schedule is rather comparatively relaxed because we already talked about chapter 4, but we are still going to talk about some topics related to chapter 4, like the challenging behavior, how to build relationships with young children, and also I'd like you, as always, to share your experiences from your childcare experiences. Yeah, with us. Well, first, to start up, I'm going to give some comments on our lesson plan. Okay, so let me share screen with everyone. By the way, you can hear me fine, right? Well, I forgot to turn on the screen in the room. I have given you feedback to all your lesson plans. Well, actually, for some of you, I give you feedback just an hour ago, even shorter than that. But I'm glad I got it done before I met you. So if you have a chance, you can look at that and ask me questions. Or if you haven't yet, well, we will have some time for you to look at that, and we can discuss that before we go home today or are dismissed today. So. I added something to our agenda, just as a reminder to myself that what I'm going to comment on within the lesson plan format. Okay, we'll just look at this one, the rubric. Okay, there we go. So now we are looking at the rubric. I have uploaded the rubric section by section onto our Blackboard folder for the lesson plans. So while you are working on it, well, of course you can also look at it in other format. But it's handy for me to give you feedback or evaluation. So talking about standard for the first one. Most of you have enough or sufficient standard statement. Few of you have many standard statements. That's not a problem itself. However, you want to make sure the standards and objectives matched are consistent. You don't want to overload either one of them. You include the standards. The standards are about the the criteria for children to reach, not us to reach. The standards should be about the children we teach, right? Not about teachers, not about pre-service teachers or teacher candidates. Yeah, I saw something about the teacher candidates. I could understand that, but we would like to have the standards as expectations for the children we teach to reach through our lesson or at the end of the day at our daycare. So anyway, it's very important for the standards and objectives to be consistent with one another. sometimes the consistency or the matching is not very easy to find because you want to include, you want to be comprehensive or inclusive based on what you want the students to do, and you just try to search and find the standards that covers that. What I want to say is that sometimes the connection might be vague, but I think I can tell. Sometimes you have 5 standards and you just need 2 or 3 objectives. Because you know the action could be included in the standard statement, even in more than one of them. Am I making sense to you? Okay, all right. Move on to objectives. Well, we try to follow the ABCD format. Some of you just use students will do something. Students will do something. Just using will. There is no obvious condition, and it's not a terrible at all. You know, yeah. Well, most of the standards are like that, are statements like that. So I would say you try to give a condition, because having a condition there will make it easier for the reader to have an idea where or under what circumstances the students will reach that goal or action or behavior, right? If it is not very easy, I mean, it's fine. You just leave it like that. Students will be able to do something. That's okay. And so if we rank it A, B, C, D, A, of course, is always there. B is always there. We need a subject. We need a predicate, of course. Well, C had better be there. If it is appropriate, that they will not be there or not very necessary, it's okay. If it doesn't affect the implementation of the objective, that's fine. D can be there. Well, we would say D to be optional. All right. Yeah, you don't have to include even a quantitative measurement, especially, I mean, for behavior, target behavior for young children. It's kind of hard to quantify. Well, you may use adverb. Sometimes you may you don't have to have a D, degree of completion or accuracy. So jumping ahead a little bit, talking about the content knowledge, content-specific knowledge section, this criterion, and also objectives. The lesson sequence should be described or should be laid out this way that students really can reach the goals, can reach the objectives, and you do not miss much, even do not miss anything. Well, if there is content for children to learn about, if there is target behavior for them to learn about. So again, consistency or alignment, all right? You don't want to have a very richly developed standards and objectives and the lesson sequence kind of too thin to make that possible, right? Yeah. Materials and environmental arrangement. I traditionally believe that's the easiest part, and I usually give easy scoring or scores for that part. Every now and then we may have a little bit of problem with that, but not too big. Anyway, include everything that will be used in the class, not just the key object or tools or toys or materials or a textbook, right, or picture book. Include everything that they may use, children may touch. Yeah, preferably include some technology, but for early childhood classrooms or setting, I don't enforce that bullet point there, technology. Quite some of you didn't really have the, strictly speaking, technology piece there, but I feel fine with that. We don't want to play PowerPoint slides to young children. Well, sometimes we do, or video, of course, a lot of videos, right? Yeah.
And like where I'm at, they won't even let them do that.
I'm telling you, my teacher does it only once in a while, like 5 minutes. So,
Okay.
but yeah, they don't want to, but they're technically under 3 years old at this opportunity project, they're not allowed to show videos.
I know in our classes, they strongly encourage us to do hands-on and use manipulatives and not, so I don't hardly ever use my smartboard in my classroom.
Minimize the screen time.
We do everything hands-on because they get so much of that at home,
Yes.
unfortunately. So
Lead teacher for ours plays when they just to burn injury. She'll play music and dance around and stuff. That's all she does.
I do music, yeah.
I thought about that, yeah, but I did say that just now. See, that's possible. But as a parent, from a parent's perspective, probably you want just to really minimize the screen time because at home it's hard to control that. Yeah. With that said, this is not. This is a kind of off topic again. There's some screen time control app. Anybody knows that? That parents can use. Teachers usually we don't control that much of the kids we teach, but parents do. So I'm using one called Our Pack. Our Pack. OURPACK. So you can search. I think you can use it on both Android or iPhones. I don't use the advanced features, so it's still free to me. Yeah, if you use the advanced features, it's really fancy. You can set a specific schedule for them to be able to access it, and you can also control even the programs they are watching, the apps on the iPad, for example. Yeah. For me now, I'm just doing granting access and blocking access. And the good thing is, so far they didn't know it's me, and they don't draw attention. If we personally approach them and say, it's the time to stop that, it's time for dinner, you have been watching it for too long, and I'll take it away, wow, they became very mad.
So my son's internet's not working. Shut it off.
You can shut it off remotely or, okay, that's good, yeah. There are a few things like that, yeah, out there. There's almost, people often say there's almost an app for everything. Okay, sorry. Well, let's come back. So we were talking about materials and environmental arrangement. You did a pretty good job about environmental arrangement in particular. So you stated clearly how to make sure it will work for all the children. They are age appropriate, the setting, and also mentioned how do you make sure it's safe. The setting, the equipments are safe for the children. So that's good consideration. Don't miss any section. Don't miss any section. If you have things in each section, usually it won't be terrible. But if you have nothing in a section, I cannot give you anything. Yeah. I wanted to give you as much as I can. Well, differentiation. So differentiation actually itself is a sophisticated process or thinking process for teachers almost all the time through all the grade levels. The criterion here I think is the same as the one we had for instructional planning. We differentiate or adapt our instruction or teaching for students with different needs. And here specifically, I think I mentioned 3 kinds of students. So general education means a not so good word to use is the regular or the large group. Special needs, of course, we all know. Children with special needs of different kind. And ESL students. So there are at least the 3 kinds. I would say do not just say it or write it this way that you're just differentiating for everybody, for the whole group. Specify what you do for certain kind of learners. You don't have to list many. For example, children with a special need, just one kind of, say ADHD, hearing impairment, that's okay for a lesson, right? We usually don't have all kinds of special needs in one classroom on a typical day, yeah. Or ELL or ESL student, yeah. Specify them, and then What I meant to convey is that for these students, you want to make the differentiation or teaching strategies different from the ones for the whole group. That's differentiation or adaptation. If it's the same for everybody, it's not a special consideration. There's a word mentioned here, subgroups. If you have understood what I said and what things said here in the rubric, you don't need to think too deep about subgroups. But I'll be talking about it because in case you have questions. This is used in the KPTP portfolio. Many of you will do that in the future, but you probably don't need to because you are just doing ECU. They have this word, subgroup, meaning students identified because of their differences from the bigger group. Sometimes it may just include one or two individuals, sometimes include a whole bunch of students. For example, ESL learners. Yeah. So it's up to the teacher candidate or intern, student intern, to identify them as the subgroup so that you will specially differentiate. So that's the sub. Although I have never liked the prefix sub before this group. I don't think they are lower in any sense. Yeah. But I think it's from KSD. They just chose to use that word. I thought about writing a letter to those people, but I wrote different things to them. Yeah. I need their help, so I wrote letters. And I didn't complain yet. Yeah.
Positive in first.
Yeah, so yeah, give them a positive impression about me. We'll see. When I have enough, I'll starting doing something different. Well, opening an inquirer, we don't have much issue with that. Anyway, remember, make this stage. So it's called opening. You want to open, warm them up by questioning, by asking interesting questions, make them curious, right? Hook them up. You need to have debates, delicious ones. So inquire, I mentioned that by asking questions most of the times. And here, pre-assessment strategies, usually in this setting, it would be as simple as just asking questions. We don't really have a pre-test oftentimes, right? A more systematic pre-test. Usually we don't for very young children. So don't worry too much about pre-assessment, but there needs to be some sort of inquiry to see how much they know, right? To check their prior knowledge, as we often say. That's what should happen in this stage. Sequence. Some of you went to such detail that you identify the Bloom's taxonomy cognitive level after almost each step. I'm really impressed. I'm impressed. Yeah. Although we didn't require that, right? We did require you to identify, gather, and process. So when or where students are gathering information, of course, when you are giving them exposure, right? And when they should be processing information. Processing information, it's more student action, right? Internalizing process. It's not the teacher processing information. Yeah. You want to describe it this way, that the students are doing something. So obviously they are processing information. Some of you didn't identify, gather, and process, and I didn't take any point off. Yeah. Also, I'll leave it up to you. Yeah. Okay. So in the table, we also have the identification of the key vocabulary and also identification of or highlighting of the highest level in a cognitive domain. Content-specific knowledge, make sure, the content is, again, consistent with the standards and objectives. We don't have too much problem with that. Closure, apply. We don't have much language here, so the standards here is lower than the one I'm using. So closure, we want to wrap up the lesson. And even with the young children, we still want to revisit what has been studied or learned throughout the long or short lesson, usually shorter, right? Yeah, revisit what we have done. We may also ask questions. Of course, it's good for us to engage children again, for them to do something. Yeah, either a summative or culminating activity. Yeah, for them to all come to the front to sing out the nursery rhyme or dance to it in the meantime. So that's a culminating activity, right? Real world connection, application, try to include that. If it is very hard, that's fine. Assessment and formative. I said that last time, I think. So for assessment, formative assessment exists. The teacher does formative assessments in every lesson. Yeah. Whatever mode of the lesson is, or type of lesson it is, guided discovery, direct instruction, interactive discussion. So teacher always monitors, keeps your eyes open or on the students, right? Observing, checking their worksheet, walking around, to monitor. That's formative assessment. It's always there. Don't leave that out. You may leave out summative assessment. Yeah. For some lessons, it may not apply for you to, or you just don't have to have one, right? Summative.
I guess I was confused on that because I'm thinking the formative is more of your formal, like when we do tests for our progress report and things like that, whereas your summative is always what you're doing just throughout. Is that what you thought or no?
I got your confusion. Yeah.
I had the same confusion.
I did a good enough job with your instruction.
I always think of it, formative is formal. Or
As
for me.
For is what?
Is for me. So it's what's happening as it happens. And the summative is the completeness of it.
Hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
Formative is
that's how I have to keep it straight.
So mine probably was, what I listed was probably formative, but I listed it as summative. I'll
Yeah,
have to have you look at
yeah,
it with
yeah.
me
Well,
later.
thank you for speaking it out.
I
Actually,
think that's what
your
I
lesson is developed in very fine detail. It's only very little. I mean, minor.
That's what I
You know,
think, yeah.
with assessment. So I thought you probably confused it too.
That's what I think, yeah.
It's easy. It's an easy fix.
We did it all last semester, confused it.
I just thought formative was your
We
whole.
successfully got.
We got through it, but at first I was confused.
Well, I finally understand.
Yep.
I want to see my names on Zoom. Yep. So I may still talk about formative and summative a little bit. I think you can hear me all along, right? Okay. So let me talk about summative and formative a little bit more. I can understand the confusion. One possibility is come from the distinction between formal assessment and informal assessment. So let me try to define formative assessment for them. So formative assessment happens incidentally throughout the instruction or lesson. You just do it on the way. Yeah. Well, if I have to connect it with informal or formal, I would say most of the time formative assessment happens informally. Occasionally, it may take the form of formal assessment. For example, if you use a Venn diagram, if you give out a KWL chart, and then you let them write, and then you just evaluate them all together, I think that's formal, right? But if it happens during the process, before everything's concluded, it will be considered as formative assessment because it happens during the process. It's still serving the purpose to continue the instruction, maybe at a better efficiency or learning efficiency. So summative assessments, most of the time, almost all the time, I would say all the time, happens when an instructional period or unit concludes. So you want to see, you want to examine the overall outcome of my instruction and the student's learning.
So I just had mine in the wrong spot.
That's all right. I don't want
Okay.
too much about that. Yeah. More. Well, it is confusing. Yeah. Well, let me try. Try to make it as confusing.
Summative is the summary. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's culminating. It's culminating. Yeah, it's more. Another good word is that it's more systematic. It often takes a written form. Well, it could also be performance-based, right? If you're teaching, say, musical singing, well, at the end of the class or at the end of the day, you want a few students to stand out there and sing out "My Son." Right? Yeah. So that's also culminating if it happens at the end of all your instruction. But usually it's systematic. So that's why I said summative assessment doesn't always happen with very young children. How systematic could you make it for them? You have a variety of questions in a paper or on whiteboard. You have multiple choice matching words with pictures. That sounds doable for maybe 3 years or 4 years maybe, but 1 or 2, it's still too much. Yeah. So, but yeah. If you think about that, you can do summative assessment as well. Like I said, somebody did a rainbow fish, a few of you actually did rainbow fish. If you have the kids individually or in a small group to come to the front at the end of the class to retell the story, that can be considered summative, right? Because from their performance, you would be able to tell, okay, they learned well. I did it today. Yeah, well, only one kid could retell the story. What did I do? Yeah, giving them the input. Yeah. So that's the purpose.
Thanks.
Any questions or any comment? Anybody? Okay, all right, we'll move on. How do I back out of there? Oh, okay. Oh, that's easy. All right. Assessment. Yeah, the last one, lesson reflection. Most of it did a good enough job with that lesson reflection. I didn't have too much to comment on this section. So if we look at that again, it includes detailed description of how to move the learning forward. So we are looking ahead, how to extend learning based on this lesson, based on the outcomes of this lesson. Imagine we have already taught. Yeah. If not, we can just imagine. Next steps, reteaching ideas and extension activities. So the focus is on next steps. Reteaching ideas, you would have an idea about that based on your imagination that students may be weaker in certain areas or with certain piece of knowledge. Again, any questions or thoughts about this?
Key vocabulary, what were you looking for in that?
Well, so key vocabulary. Yeah, we don't have a descriptive language about the key vocabulary here. So the key vocabulary, we probably have it in the guidelines. Those words you want the children to learn. The important ones. Some of you mentioned the color, the words for colors. Yeah, those specific ones.
Okay, like, look, I was looking at, I teach the title in school. I have that, but it's a sound. It's for what the animals are making, so that's why I was wondering. I can always ask them what color, because they know the 3 or 4 kids that are always in there, they all know their colors, so I can always ask what color the animals are and stuff. So.
Yeah. The key vocabulary would be closely around the objectives. Yeah.
I did the names of the animals in one of my stories coming up.
They can't. They're under 18 months, so they're not. They can tell you colors, 4 or 5 basic colors. They can tell you the sounds.
Yeah.
But that's not
sounds.
So they can't give the name of it, so I'll ask them. I said, this is a lion, and they'll try. They'll point to the letters that it spells.
Mhm.
They can't say.
It says here in the guidelines format, list the 3 to 5 age-appropriate words you will introduce that relate to lesson or overall objective. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And the Bloom's taxonomy highlight highest level used. A few of you have highlighted a few. So you just got the point. Well, so later on you may just highlight the highest. That's not challenging at all, right? Yeah, you just.
I just highlighted as I went. Yes, I meant this one. Yes, this one. Yes, this one. Nope, not the rest.
That's not a problem. I mean, I can tell what is the highest.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, quite a few of you voiced your initial struggle or challenges you had encountered while fitting in your contents into this grid. Because, the lines would go all the way until it reached the very edge of the page probably, and then go back. So many words are just got eaten off.
I just typed mine into the other format and then just copied and pasted it into there, and that worked a whole lot better.
Really?
Good
Did you
idea.
figure out why?
So that's what I turned it in, but that was why I did both of them. It worked better.
Yeah, I was just thinking, are you the only? A couple of you did both templates. I said, oh my goodness, your time.
No.
You didn't have to.
I did the first one that I could just type out normal and then just went in and cut and paste, and then I had to adjust a little bit, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah. Well, I would say, this table is well designed. It's when you fit everything nicely into it, and it looks really nice. Yeah. Well, it's like a map. It's like a plan of schemes, and so the reader would know. Okay, I should do this here and there. It's very clear. But if you have the problem with the word with the lines, I know I understand it perfectly. Yeah, you don't have to use this format. You can use just a narrative or paragraph format on the previous page. Right? Yeah. And I talked with George. Maybe you don't mind me mentioning you here. Try to change the feature or format the table feature, but he couldn't do it. Probably you cannot change the feature. Just like make the table fit the content, right? It goes bigger or smaller, but because it's like a puzzle piece, jigsaw puzzle, so it wouldn't change that way. It's not that flexible. Yeah. Anyway, you got me. Okay. Speaking of assignment, let's just talk about them all. Tonight we have another resource list. A few of you have already done them, and the other one is the reflection upon another research, not really a research article, but on inclusion classroom in early childhood. And again, many of you have already submitted, yesterday or even earlier.
I have a question about the checklist.
Let me see. Okay, I'm sorry. Huh. Let me stop sharing. Okay, now you're all back. Is it from Cindy? You got a question?
No, I have a question.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Melissa, go ahead.
I just wonder, do you want just the list of whatever it is, 8, 12 to, do you just want that list, or do you want it all the way completed? Because I only saw a spot to give it like for the complete list. Does that make sense?
Probably everyone else understood your question.
The resource list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it the complete list that we're supposed to drop in there, like from 0 all the way through?
Oh.
I didn't see a spot for just that little section.
Are you talking about Dropbox?
Dropbox.
Dropbox.
Is there a spot on Blackboard for it?
I think for the second one,
I think it's in both.
there's no.
It's the whole list, isn't it?
It's the whole list.
Yeah, for the second submission, I listed as the whole list. Yeah. And what about the score then? Close that. Okay. Yeah, anyway, this should be clear by just now. For the second one, you just submit the whole thing. Yeah, so final draft here. If you don't mind, let me see the points here. It should be 100. Yes, yeah, 100.
I need to figure out how to delete.
Submissions?
Yeah, because
You don't have to delete it. You just keep submitting new things, and it will show you in a sequence.
okay. Well, I wanted to take my other lesson plan out and fix something.
Yeah, I don't think you can delete it actually. You can just revise on your local draft and then do another submission. Yeah. Speaking of the resource list, I would appreciate. I kind of like that if you follow the rubric or the guidelines. There are categories for each. Let's go to the syllabus. It may take a few seconds. All right. It takes some processing time for me to figure out whether you have toys for active play, whether you have things like furniture, indoors and outdoor activities. If you categorize them like that, or according to the list there, it will be a lot easier. Yes, yeah. So this is what I'm talking about. Let me share screen with you again. So. I'm going to share screen with you again so that we can all see the resource list, the rubric. If you could, like I said, if you could include or just divide the toys or things up according to the category. So under age-appropriate toys, you have this much. Furniture, you have this much. So there's a bunch under each category. I think it's a Crystal and somebody else as well listed that. So after 0 to 6 months, and she said, with in a couple of lines, all the toys or things used for 0 to 6 months would apply in this age group as well. And then you just include the new things. That works perfect. Is it you?
It wasn't me.
Oh, okay.
I remember.
But that's a credit,
somebody
yeah. Why not just take it?
Now, you know what, I didn't write that. I just copied and pasted some of those same things in. That's what I did. So
Oh,
like
okay.
a changing table
Yeah.
or crib or something, I copied that to the next
Of
one,
course,
so.
yeah. That's nice too. Yeah. Yeah. So who did that? But nobody claimed the credit though. I mean, it's a time for you.
I did that one
Cindy.
Of course.
Cindy, all right.
where you just repeat. I was trying to create less work for myself.
That's smart. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I don't want you to just make extra efforts to accomplish the assignment. If you're not very happy with what you got for the first set of resource list, make revisions, and somehow you can comment. In your assignment folder, there's a comment section. You can add notes to me. Say I revised my first resource list, and please look at that, so I will know. If you said nothing, I will assume you didn't revise it. I'll just look at the second set and then add up the two scores. All right.
Gary's singing again.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Okay.
So we already submitted the second one and didn't make comments that we revised anything. Is there a way to go back in and comment, and do we have to resubmit it?
You have to resubmit it.
You want to comment on?
I did
You
make
want-
a couple revisions on the first one, like just the categories, but
I don't know whether you can. If you can't, you may just need to resubmit it. Yeah. I said every assignment just unlimited submission. So you can submit it
So if we submit a second one, just title it a little different and tell you to look at that one,
even if you don't change the title, it will show as
the second submission.
a column of smileys.
Okay,
Yeah, and the latest one is at the bottom.
okay, so you'll check that one.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
already confused by well, okay. So very few of you probably have questions about the quantity of the toys or things in each category. I would say, again, I wish my number didn't keep changing. After reviewing your assignment, sometimes it changed. For each category, if you have only 2 or 3 items, I think that's not plenty. That may not be even sufficient. I would say at least 5 for each category, right? Yeah. Many of you have many for each category. By the category, again, I mean the one we just looked at. Toys, or furniture, and what else? Questions or thoughts? Or okay, all right. Most of you didn't have any problem with the article reflection. Yeah. I did upload a how to read journal article handout. It's just a little bit more than 1 page, but I think that's a helpful document. It's under course resources. I uploaded there because I believe it will also help your later journal article reviewing, how to read a journal article in course resources. So under each section, there are information you want to know. What kind of information you want to know in each component or section in a research article. Yeah. If you are looking for one yourself, first you look at the title, of course. Oftentimes, research articles has long titles, and then you can tell more information in the abstract. Usually, you can tell whether it's the one you want or not, whether it's informative or it will be informative to you or not by reading the abstract. Okay. There's also an ADHD presentation by actually one of our faculty members from nursing department, Jeannie Harris. I shared it with you as well, even with the voice file. She did a presentation with Robert and yeah, Emily, Betsy, Sarah.
Yeah.
About ADHD. It's very in-depth presentation. She has personal experience with it, with one of her children. She also worked with many people or children with ADHD, and she talked about it from the medical, educational, and also personal as a mother perspective. It's very informative. So if you want to utilize that, feel free to do that. Okay, so we'll move on maybe after a very short break. It's close to 50 minutes. And then we'll talk about some topics related to chapter 4. And we'll see how much you have to share. If not, we'll do some more relaxing activity based on the topic. All right? Let's take a 5-minute break. Alrighty, so everyone is back. We'll move on. So next, let's talk about Before we talked about more topics about how to deal with situations in our early childhood classrooms or daycare. So I want to do this first, brainstorming about technology in a classroom. We talked about it a little bit. It seems that we cannot, or even our hands and feet are kind of bound when it comes to using technology in a classroom. But I'm interested in knowing your experiences about that, and also looking into the future. What is possible, or what might be reasonable for us to use? Because we all know that technology mostly helps with our instruction, helps with students learning, and engage them better, and we all love it. So I like us to just exchange our thoughts and experiences about this. So first, let's share what's in your room or care center, daycare center setting now. Speaking of technology.
Where I'm at, the teacher has a computer, and I mean, that's it. It's on her desk, and she plays music on it. But the kids aren't even supposed to look at the screen to watch the video that goes with the music. But that's the only technology they have.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
It's not a home setting, it's just professional daycare.
Yeah.
Okay. Only a laptop.
Yeah.
Or a PC, whatever. Yeah.
And mine's a home setting, and she has a TV. And sometimes they'll do I can't think what they're called, not the Go Noodle, but with just dance. And then she has a computer that she uses. But so yeah, that's it.
And kids don't look at it. Right?
Not
Kids don't
computer.
look at it.
Mm-mm. She doesn't use it much. I think it's more for her paperwork.
Okay.
Do
kids watch the TV sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
What do they watch?
She'll put on, she'll let them pick a movie or a cartoon during rest time, just because there's 11-year-olds and 3-month-olds, so there's that big span. And most of the littles fall asleep. But then the older kids just watch something real quiet. She has the volume down real low. So.
I will be getting a smart board this fall in my classroom. Last year I only had the projector. We have iPads available, about 4 per classroom, but I detest the use of all technology in our rooms. So I'm having to adjust my attitude to get a little more friendly with technology. But I also see such a overuse of it, even for story time. Teachers are doing it on the smart boards, singing time. Everything is going through the smart board, and I think that's a shame.
I agree.
Yeah, did you mention why, Cindy?
I think a lot of the teachers I work with are a little bit younger, so they've grown up with this technology. They embrace it. I'm old school. I like reading the story out of a book. I like doing the songs and the movements in front of the kids. I'm not intimidated by that. I don't need to rely on that computer screen to do it for me. The kids don't care if I don't know how to sing. And so probably my age more than anything is the difference. But I also resist it so much because kids are handed their parents' phone or iPad way too often as a pacifier for them. And so I want to balance their day with very little technology.
Appreciate that, yeah, from a parent's perspective, yeah. Well, initially when I heard you got a smart board in your room, I was a little bit excited. I was expecting some experience like this. we all know that in most classrooms or educational settings, we either have smart boards or Promethean boards. Yeah, it's almost unanimously used by the teacher and also students at times. But of course, your input made good sense to me, and I'm with you on certain points. Yeah. Although, well, maybe the dancing part, I would resort back to technology. Yeah, I learned it, I tried it, but it's not very successful though. Yeah, I'll keep learning. Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. I would say it's very interesting to hear your experience or perspective. You from your reflection, very honest reflection, you almost totally resisted technology. From a researcher's perspective, that's really worth exploration. Yeah. In such an environment, we encourage technology almost in every setting, every context. Yeah. Any other things? Yeah. Before I talk too much, I'd like to hear your perspectives about this. Either experiences or perspective. Yeah, Robert.
I've been in a classroom setting where they've had the kinetics for the Xbox, where they do the dance game, because it pretty much will put you up on the screen in that person's spot instead of, it's like a virtual reality. So it was the younger kids, and they were playing a dance game, and they were up this, and then that way they could see what they're doing and the movements and stuff. And it was more of a physical therapy type, because the kids with special needs that actually couldn't move, and they wanted to see what they were doing, just to see how it was. So I've seen it where technology is used that way in the classroom, but after they're done with the dance game 1 or 2 times, then they put it up, and then they go back to reading out books and stuff.
So that's a plus. Yeah, that's a good differentiation. Yeah. So even children with physical disability, they could still dance. Yeah, in that sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The classroom I'm in, they don't have technology either. It's all a lot of hands-on activities, but it's 2-year-olds also, so I don't think screens are appropriate necessarily at that age. But, I also think we kind of tend to say technology is just bad, but I think we also have to kind of change with the times. Our teaching strategies can't always be the way we were taught. We learn new approaches, and I think it's just everything in moderation. There's some very good apps out there, even for young children. I like ABC Mouse. There's 5-10 minutes, I think, on an app that you find very educational that engages their attention. I don't think necessarily it's a bad thing. I know just from my experience as being an elementary teacher that if my 4th graders didn't know a word, they don't pick up a dictionary. We didn't even have dictionaries in the classroom. They go to Google, they type in the word, and it's just a different age group that we're working with, and they are more technology focused. And I think like I said, I think it's all in moderation. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Thank you, Carrie.
I was going to agree with Cindy, but then I heard what Carrie said, and so it's like, we do have to change the times of where we're in today, because the home visits that we have, the mom's always giving her son the phone. That's the only thing he goes to. We'll get his attention with toys, but he'll try to look for the phone, and he'll just sit on it with his phone. And so that's why I was with Cindy on there, because I feel like today is technology based, and I don't like that, because when we have problems with technology, then what are we going to do? We rely on it so much that we would be like, oh, what is this do now, And but then hearing what Carrie said, it's like, we do have to adapt to today. It's not like we were taught before, because we didn't have iPads like they have today. I'm only 25, but still, I don't remember having. I know we didn't have iPads, so I don't think it's the age. I agree with Cindy and Carrie at the same time.
Yeah, thank you, Kira. That's great input that you shared. I did catch some parts, if not all. Your the sound coming from you sound a little bit muffled. Is that the word? Yeah, but I think you mentioned that age is not a matter, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good for me to know. So yeah, I may enroll myself into a dancing club or something.
Coming from kindergarten, our district really pushes for technology and the integration. So if they get that exposure in preschool, it's a little bit easier to teach them how to manipulate and use the different kinds of technologies. Like I had a smart board in my room and I loved it because they could come up and they could move things around. It's not actual manipulative that you can touch, but they were getting that fine motor from moving the different things on the screen. Like I said, I know our district is really pushing for technology in all of like the centers. You have to have a technology center when you do math centers. You have to have a technology center when you do reading centers. So it's a really big push for them to know that technology.
I got you. Yeah, thank you, Melissa. That really seems to be the trend in many, if not all, school districts. Yeah, but again, I mean, I don't have to. I mean, balance, but I think well, every one of you had very reasonable input or points of view about this. Specifically about very young children, well, the setting also makes a difference, right? A really classroom setting and a home setting, I would think there are differences. You would have to do things in a different way. Yeah, including the furniture, the technological devices that you may use. Yeah, and we have to also consider parents' opinion about this. We are all aware that parents do not like their children to be exposed to more screen time. That might be one of the reasons they send children to daycare center. Yeah, right. If they are home and parents have a lot to do, they just have to give them the iPad or even their smartphones. Yeah. That's why I talked about our pack. Yeah, the screen time control app. Yeah. Okay. So to conclude on this is that by the way, any other input?
Well, and I mean, in my personal classroom, I mean, I teach pre-K, and we have a smart board, and I do use it. But sometimes it's used for brain breaks, so, you know, like the songs and stuff on Go Noodle. The kids can watch, but they can also, I mean, it teaches them, but it also, our kids know that they have to participate. They can't just stand there and watch, you know, because the brain break is about movement. In last fall, well, not the fall, but the spring, I was piloting a new program, and we had a lot of the vocabulary is very high in that. So the kids didn't know, so I used it a lot for, like, if there was something they didn't know, I tried to find a picture to go with it. So I do a lot of that. Also, during center time, the smart board is a choice, so I have wireless headphones that they can use. And so, like, 4 kids can go, I mean, they know 4 kids at a time can go there. And I put up different learning games that they can do. Another way that I use technology in the classroom is with parents. I do a thing called Class Dojo. So, and the parents can have an app, but it's an easy way to share, like, I like sharing, like, pictures. We can take short video clips. And, you know, you can automatically send that out to parents. So, you know, it builds a connection and gives them a glimpse of what you're doing in the classroom. And also, like, I didn't do it all the time, but certain times if there was a book that we were reading and I knew there was a version of it on YouTube, I would send them the video just so that they could see, you know, and make the connection as to what we were doing in class. So that's just another way that I use it. But.
Wonderful. So pre-K class, pre-K 2.
Tribe.
Oh. Beautiful. Yeah, good, very good experience. Yeah. I think our points are clearly voiced. Yeah. I don't have to summarize all your points. Yeah. And even in many school districts or just the individual schools, iPad or Chromebooks became the norm. Every child can have one. Well, probably not in early childhood setting, right? They don't have to have one for one kid. Yeah. Well, if that's possible, because quite some of you have been teaching elementary grades, I mean higher than early childhood level. One app I want to mention today briefly is called a Nearpod. Let me share screen with you so we can all see that. Some of you are already familiar with it. Where is it? It's hiding behind. Okay. So it's spelled as Nearpod. You can download it as an app, or you can also log into the website. Just search for nearpod.com, so you can go to the home page. I already logged in, so you can log in. You can sign up for a free account. The free account, of course, your capacity is limited. In your library, in my library, I have all my collections of the Nearpod lessons. So I register as a Nearpod teacher because I'm an educator. Yeah. I didn't try the student version, but I don't think it will have a bigger capacity as a student. So I can have almost just this many lessons. Because if I want to add more, I couldn't. I ask you to upgrade. Maybe it's $7 per month, $6.99 per month for however many. You can still buy the more expensive ones. And many lessons are free here, and many others, more sophisticated lessons, more content-rich lessons, you need to pay, but not expensive. Yeah, $3, $4. Yeah, usually around that range. Yeah, social studies. A lot of social studies or history classes and science classes or math classes, almost everything. So today let's just spend a few minutes on just to experience this lesson. Although, it says 4+. So obviously it may not apply to 0 to 2. Not to mention whether they can hold an iPad in their hands, right? Yeah. But let's just have a feel of this app. You may probably, no, I'm going to start anew. So yeah, if you have a device at your hand, you may pick up your smartphone, if you have another, laptop or anything with internet connection, you can just log on to Nearpod. You don't have to download the app. Of course you can. Well, and then share the code. You can log in. I think you join a session. You can click join a session. Then you put in this code and see what jumps up on your screen. Yeah, the code is KPMYI. KPMYI. I don't think it distinguishes between upper or lower cases. Are we all good? I didn't hear anything from our Zoom friends. I assume you're ready. Okay. So this is the lesson cover page, farm animals, sounds, and words. And let's start our journey. Now on your screen, it should ask you to sign in. You would find yourself a name, any kind of name, funny name, your nickname. There's another thing that you do not have to put. What?
The student ID.
Student ID, ignore that. Right. You don't have to care about the student ID. Just to find yourself a name, any name.
KPMYI.
Now, I think everyone can see my screen, which is the Nearpod teacher screen. When you're in a Nearpod lesson, the teacher becomes a Nearpod teacher, and the students are Nearpod students. All right, so now we have 5 students or more. Okay. By the way, an iPad, any device that has a screen size at 7-inch or wider or larger can be a Nearpod teacher. If your screen size is smaller than 7-inch, you can only be a student. You cannot operate the features as a teacher, so you cannot hold a class. Yeah. Did they change it? I don't know. Yeah, but initially, that's the rule. Maybe you can try that just to defeat me. All right, so we have this many students logged in. We're good to move on. I think you can still log in while the lesson's going on. So then you will immediately be at the page where the lesson is at. So lesson objectives, always remember objectives. In many school districts, for example, 261 Hayesville, they require teachers to post the lesson objectives. Am I right? Yeah, 261 is Hayesville, right? Okay. So this is our objectives. Let's move on. From lots of animals, and they will make all different sounds. Let's go meet them. So here, you know what would happen already. It didn't startle anyone. All right. So we have the audio effect. Here's the question. Somewhere you can find a pen icon, right? It's down, yeah. It's down on the lower left-hand corner. Yeah, you can choose writing utensil and a different color, and then you can just draw on the screen, choosing the animal. The animal that you think just make the sound we heard. Awesome, yeah.
Oh,
so,
you can see what everybody did.
So on the teacher screen, the student's submission, after the student sees a thank you, that means they have already submitted it. So on the teacher screen, in the meantime, almost, that we can see the student's work or submission, right?
Oh, it's a waiting line. Whoops. Okay. Sorry, I'm slow.
So this is hands-on, a hands-on section with this lesson. If you draw on a blank piece of paper or screen, I mean, it will be hard because you have to draw with a finger on a screen. Usually that doesn't work so easily as writing or drawing on a paper, but yeah, we can draw simple things. All right? Okay, so how do I give feedback? Let's move on. Yeah, here's the feedback.
Does it read it ever, or do you just read it as the teacher? I didn't know if there was like a button you could push and it would read that, or
Oh.
Or you just have to read it yourselves?
Does it show on your screen?
No, I was just wondering if it.
This page, no.
Okay.
No, yeah. There's no sound built in with this page. Yeah. So here's practicing spelling. Pick up a color and trace the letters of the animal. Horse. So it will be age appropriate for what, 4 years old, a 5-year-old, even for some 3 years old. Or maybe not much.
Oh, whoops.
You're not staying inside the line.
You're gonna see which one's mine.
Oh, you're gonna know which one's mine. I'm not seeing it though.
My sister, like, I kind of do.
Well, I'm drawing it.
You're doing good.
I'm using it. Won't let me.
Well, on a
Where's
touch
the
screen,
eraser?
it might be easier. On a touch
I'm trying
pad,
to screen
yeah.
and it's still
It would
hard.
be harder to draw on a small touch pad.
There's
Yeah.
the touch. Okay.
Still, it would be easier if you have a mouse in your hand.
Wait a minute. It looks crazy. I'm just gonna send it anyway. It looks like a kid did it.
That's what we want.
Oh, I submitted
Oh,
it.
nice. We have different colors.
Well, mine doesn't look like that though. That looks different than what mine is.
What?
Yeah, mine doesn't look
I don't
like
know
that.
which
I
one's
have
yours.
letters on everything. And it doesn't show the same thing up there. I wonder if it's because I used the cursor for part of them and I used my finger for part. See?
Which one is
Ooh,
yours?
shock.
Ushaka, I guess that's yours.
Yeah, because my screen looks different.
Oh.
Yep. I traced
Okay.
them all. I don't know why I did that.
Hmm.
But some I used my finger for the H, the S, and the E, and then I used the mouse for the O and the R. But it didn't register.
All right. Is it okay if I move on? Okay, thank you, everybody. So here's another sound. Just get ready. So another drawing activity. And let's move on. I'm sorry. Yeah. So just yeah. Oh, it's a similar exercises, right? And this one is, we don't want to miss the sound though, right? Yeah.
That's the best part.
Very nice. It's time to wake up. Yeah, so another drawing exercise, and then the information. Or here is the gathering part, right? What do visitors say? What do they do? The word. Yeah. Another sound. Sounds great. Yeah.
I don't know if little ones though would get that. That's probably not what they associate with the pigs.
They hear
the
little-
the
Yeah.
They wouldn't know
They
that.
hear oink, oink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's almost the end. Look at all the animals we met today. That's wrapping up. Yeah.
We'll use this on Tuesday.
Match animals with their names, matching game. And here's the reference answer, the answer sheet. And that's it. Yeah. So this is one ready-made lesson. It's simple but free. So this is just one example. So these are my collections. I cannot
So
change.
you
too
can
much.
search any topics then up
You can
there?
search. You want me to try now? Give me a topic.
Do you want-
Search. Not search my lessons. Yeah. Well, we want to go explore so that we can search for any lesson available here. There are themes, and you can also search by grade levels. Yeah. So grade K to 12. What is here? Oh, yeah. The subject areas are here.
Do they have
Math,
a
social
pre-K or early
science.
childhood down there?
Down there or up there?
No, back down.
Back down? Okay.
Top.
Where's the theater?
So there was the grade. Okay.
Theaters, okay.
It just said
Skip the
K-12.
theaters. Grades.
Kindergarten
Looks
level.
like it starts with kindergarten. Right, not pre-K, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We use a lot of the.
I should write to them, right? Yeah. They have a small team. They have a small team of staff. Yeah. I don't know whether they are full-time or part-time. Yeah. And I bet many of them are teachers. Say, phone, Nick. Okay. Many. Yeah, so some of them do charge. So, oh, that's just awareness. All right. No lessons, phonemic.
Probably have to put letters, yeah. Put it alphabet or something like that. Letter sounds, maybe more specific. Or
Letters.
rhyming.
Let's see. Yeah, we got something. Yeah. Well, this one is free. This one is $3. Which everybody has a body.
So once you purchase it, you get to keep, I mean, you don't have to repurchase it every time you use it?
Yeah, it will be your collection.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense if you
Right, well, I didn't know, I mean, some.
Yeah. Actually, to be honest, I didn't buy anything.
Use free stuff too.
But you can preview it to see whether you want to buy it, right? We're customers. Yeah. Okay. Any comment, any questions before we move on? Yeah, I recommend it to all my students because, I mean, all of my students will teach young children, elementary or even sometimes secondary. Okay, so well, back to chapter 4. Impressively, by now we have already covered all the contents in the first book, The Foundation, Volume 1. We talked about chapter 5 in the very first lesson, and we talked in good detail about chapter 3, especially chapter 4, because it deals with the topics or issues we often feel challenged by, which is behavior issues, affective factors, or emotional problems, or behavior issues are the things we usually have to face up front in early childhood education before we talk about academic progress or having them learn things. So that's why we focus on that. And then later on, we'll watch a video about that, about challenging behavior. So let me go back to Zoom.